Amatakwape. Betuashte. Hello, my relatives. Today is a good day. And it really is. Every day is good, even though we have to deal with the United States of America. You know, some of you do have some education on the origin of individual liberty through representative government. That's what your Constitution initially was based upon, as long as it was a white male with property. But what I want to go into is the fact that John Locke, the Greeks, the Romans, there wasn't any of the European philosophers or the Mediterranean philosophers that ever came up with the idea of individual liberty through representative government. Not until 1746, fully 30 years before the revolution that created the United States of America, Benjamin Franklin was among the first. And he said, it was to a meeting of colonists, the colonial leadership from the different colonies of Pennsylvania somewhere, Philadelphia, I think. At that meeting, and he said this, I quote, "If those savages to the north can form a near perfect union that has endured for centuries and appears to be indissoluble, why can't we, a more civilized people, form a more perfect union?" Unquote. In 1988, the U.S. Congress, just prior to the celebration of the 200th anniversary of the Bill of Rights, passed a resolution, a unanimous resolution in Congress, thanking the Iroquois Confederacy for its input into the United States Constitution and its formation. So you see, there are people who recognized our contribution to the world. Individual liberty through representative government. And that First Amendment, by the way, no other country has it. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the freedom of the press. This country put together a document that, of course, allowed the citizenry to be free to be responsible. You hear me all over and over utilizing that axiom, and it's because that's it. But what I want to really impress upon you is that we have to make a paradigm shift here. What was left out by Benjamin Franklin and your founding white male, rich white male leadership of that time, what was left out is the fact that that idea came from a matriarchal existence. Matriarchy. Which doesn't believe in a market economy. It believes in a local economy. Now, I've mentioned in one of, way back when we began, about matriarchy and what it's really all about. It is not about what the patriarch fears. Oh my Lord, the woman is going to take over. That's not matriarchy. Matriarchy is a balanced society that all sexes celebrate their differences. Wow, what a concept. Now think about that. Give it some time to roll around in your brain. They celebrate their differences. Man, oh man. I'm talking about matriarchy celebrating your differences. But you still have individual choice, individual freedom. That's the beauty of celebrating your differences. Now in matriarchy, you know, women live longer than men. And they stand more pain, they have more endurance. You men do not know pain. You've never given birth. You know, the women of the world, they're the givers of life. They give life. We take life. They're the givers, we're the takers. They live longer than us. So it's just by natural selection we follow the woman's lineage. Because when we die in our shorter lifespan, we want our wife and children to be among her friends and relatives. Now us primitives, all around the world, indigenous people are matriarchal by and large. Hugely large, I mean, you know, over 90%. But I want to talk about this positive change that we need. You know, if we do not make this major change, then there isn't any hope. Because look at the history of patriarchy. The history of patriarchy is in reality the history of empire. Patriarchy demands poverty. It demands it. And it demands slavery. It demands a well-to-do slavery, like the merchant class and the middle class, so-called middle class, so that you'll slave the majority part of the day so that the rich can get richer. And you will slave for them because you do not want to end up in poverty. That's the reason I don't care what kind of political system the male creates, they still need poverty. There's no egalitarian society possible in patriarchy because it's a market economy. People have to be rich, and people have to be poor, and you've got the slaves. Now there's a professor from back east, I think Pennsylvania, but don't quote me on that. But he's already ascertained through studying indigenous people to fulfill their responsibilities, it takes about 2 hours out of the day. You and the rest of the scientific, progressive, fantastic, technological world that you live in takes a minimum of 8 hours a day for the slaves to fulfill their responsibility. So I ask you to take a look at matriarchy. And we will be looking at that very soon. The next weekend update. Donc, j'ai